Hi guys, welcome to another exciting episode on our channel. Today, we'll be looking at a key concept in graphic design known as background. Often at times, people ask me, how am I supposed to treat my background for the artwork or which background is suitable for a particular artwork? Now, I've broken the type of background into four categories. The first one is the flat background, the second is the gradient background, the third is textured background, and the fourth is my personal combination called the hybrid combination of any of these ones. So if you are ready, I'm ready. I'm just going to take you through how to create this kind of background separately and how you can apply them on design. Let's begin. So to work on a background, to create your background, first of all, you have to create your canvas. And to create your canvas, you go to create new and then pick your diameter or the canvas size. And in this video, I'm working with the 148 by 148 millimeters canvas. Resolution is set to 300, and then leave the rest of the things as it is. We hit create. Voila! We have our canvas ready for us to work. We are looking at the first type of background and the easiest way to create a background. First of all, you go to your layers panel and then select create new fill, where you see other options, but you go straight to solid color. When you click on the solid color, it will open the color picker for you. Then you select the kind of background color you are looking for. As soon as you point to that area, the color is selected, and click OK. And here you have it. Your background is created. Very simple way of creating a background. And with this trick, it's very easy for you to change the background. And all you have to do is double click and the color picker will show again. Then you pick the colors you want to do. You have the luxury of selecting from any of the color schemes available here. So this is the simplest way of creating a background, and this is the first type of background, which is the flat type of background. Now from here we'll be looking at the second type of background, and this background is called the gradient type of background. So for you to create a gradient type of background, there is also a simple way of creating a background, and there are multiple ways of doing it. You have the preset that the Photoshop itself has given you, and we have the other option whereby you yourself choose the colors you want to use or your style of gradient. So first of all, let's look at the preset within the Photoshop system. To create it, you go to new layer and add your new layer here. Then you go to the gradient effect on your tools box. As soon as you click on it, you have the gradient section selected up here. When you click on it, it will open the gradient window where you have the luxury of selecting the type of gradient color scheme you are looking for. And you can have 2 color gradient, you can have 3 color gradient, you can have 4 color gradient, depending on you yourself. And you can add. It's easy adding the gradient to it, and it's easy deleting the gradient color scheme. So for example, I have 4 color gradient. If I want to make it 2, I'll just delete 1 and delete this one, and I have 2. Or I can simply add and simply add. And it's very simple how to add. When you take your mouse to the area you want to add an extra color, you see the pointer turns into one hand. You click on it and you are done. And when you want to delete, you can easily hit on the delete on your keyboard or just drag that particular color off the gradient list, and you have your gradient color mixer. Now when you want to select a color or when you want to change the color, you click on it, the color will show in here. You click on the color picker will show. Then you would pick the color you want to use for your gradient, and when the color scheme here is ready, you hit on OK. Now this is how you create it on your canvas. You just drag it from one side to the other, and the background is beautifully applied. Depending on the flow of the gradient, if you want the gradient to be from down to the top, you just stretch from that place, and the same applies when you want it to come from the top to the bottom, just like that. Now, there are also other types or styles to the gradient. When you look at the top, you'll see we have the radial kind of gradient, we have the linear gradient, and we have the diamond or angular gradient. Now, let's take a look at each and every one. The first example we've done is the linear gradient. Let's take a look at how the gradient or the radial gradient really works. As soon as I drag, you will see that it will create a gradient effect in a circular form. Depending on the position or the angle I drag it from, it creates just like that. And the angle gradient also does the same thing, just that with that one you have an angle shaped point. Before I forget, let's look at one other aspect of this gradient. We can drag the positioning. We can drag the positioning from left to right. We can add and we can change where each gradient is supposed to be. So if you have a gradient and you don't like the way the color is flowing, you can easily come in here, click on the gradient and edit your colors. And when you hit on OK and you stretch, yes, you have it. This is the simplest way of creating a background using the gradient style by Photoshop default. Another simple way of creating the gradient background is adding a brush kind of effect. So first of all, you have your solid background, and then from this side you use your brush to create a new layer on top of your solid background and pick the next color you want the gradient to be on. So I'm working with blue. I want the gradient mix to be a yellow. I pick the color yellow, go to my brush settings, select the brush type I want, and then increase the size of my brush. Yeah, here we have it. So depending on the color you want to work on, you actually would choose using the brush or using the color picker and then apply it on the new layer, and you can still add other colors to it. You can also create another layer and change the color, maybe add a little bit of white, and then apply it however you want the gradient effect to feel. So this is doing it manually. So I've talked about how to do it by the default settings in Photoshop and how to do it manually. So this is how you create a gradient effect or a gradient background. The third option of creating a background is using textures or certain elements into your background to create a background. And this is most of the time needed when you are working on posters, when you are working on product label, and also working on other stuff that requires you to have textures in the background. And I'll just take you through the basics, and from there you can advance. How to do it is the concern. So let's take a look at it. First of all, you would add a solid color to it. That is the main base of the color you want to use, which in here I want to use orange. So I pick an orange background. Okay, now then I'll come and draw textures using my object tool, which can be a rectangular or ellipse tool. So I go for the ellipse tool and then draw an element on it. Then maybe reduce the opacity to say 18 or 30, and also reduce the fill. And then you can simply reduce the sizes and then make a duplication. You can also edit the shape to make the whole background interesting, so that it is not easily recognizable by anyone who is actually looking at what you are doing. So here we have it. This is a simple of creating a textured background, and I'm just trying to let you understand, so we are not creating anything fancy. We are just showing you how you can create it, and there are a lot of things you can apply to this. You can even erase some of them. You can make it more lighter. You can make it more visible. That is the textures at the background. But this is a simple way of creating a textured background. Now, there's another kind of background I would like you guys to consider when you're designing your artwork. That is what I call the hybrid kind of background, and it's a combination of 2 or 3 of these backgrounds I've talked about. That is combining the flat, the gradient, and the textured background. And also with the textured background, one thing I forgot to tell you is that it is not only you creating the textures. You can also go and download textures online and applying it. So let me create a hybrid kind of background where we combine textures and gradient and all that. So in here we are going to use the gradient background and the textured background combination. So first of all, we'll go and pick our gradient. Yeah, this is great. So the next step would be creating textures on the background. So quickly we just take our oval tool or ellipse tool and then create first texture. Think of the position. All this is your creativity. So I want to edit this one out here. Okay, now from here we can also import other textures to make this more beautiful and more attractive. So we can go online and download some images which I've already done. So I'll go into my downloads and go and look for one textured background that I've worked on. Yeah, here we have it. We drag this image straight onto our canvas like that. Then as it is, use our blending mode and look out for the one that will make this background more nice. So I think we'll stick with linear blend. Now here we have it. Our background is complete, having the gradient textured background kind of combination. So now as we are done, we'll just put our text on it and see if our background works well with the text we are putting on. And here we have it. This is a simple way of creating background, and these simple steps, if considered when you are doing your artwork, make your artwork look very nice. Applying this background to your artwork is not supposed to limit you to one particular style. You can add them, as I have done with the last type of background, which I call the hybrid. You can apply it anyhow, anyway, provided you were able to get a basis of creating a unique and identifier background. And also remember, the colors you use for your background should not have any issue with the text or image you put on them. We've come to the end of another exciting episode. If this video was helpful, kindly give us a thumbs up and hit on the subscription button below. Also, hit on the notification button so that when we upload any new videos, you'll be sure to have them. Links to videos that we've treated earlier on, like fonts, layout, and other lessons, have been linked in the description below. Please make sure to check them out. See you next week.